Hi, yeah, it's a very, very, very early good morning. If you could see the clock, it is 2:41 a.m. There I was peacefully off with the fairies in my slumber, and all of a sudden I just jerked myself awake. By the way, many of you may also be experiencing this business of kind of waking up involuntarily um, at in the small hours, the wee hours of the morning, and repeatedly, even though you've had enough rest, even though you're not having an insomniac episode. So I think something is going on with the vibration and the rhythm of life around us, but I digress. Um, this post is about European civilization being in total and utter crisis. Last night I attended a talk meeting, really, where we were talking about things like unifying humanity, happiness, and so on. And a friend who is living in Italy was talking about sharing his experience of what they're going through over there with the equivalent of their vaccine passes, where life has literally ground to a halt if you're unvaccinated or not up to date with your vaccinations. The only place literally you can go to is go and shop for food. You can't even go into banks if you're not properly up to date with your freedom pass, and it's that's where you keep your own money you've worked for. And as he painted the picture of life in Italy, my heart sank. And when he finished, I spontaneously burst out in applause for him. Really, it was just in acknowledgement of, a fellow human being who was living through absolutely stark, and horrific times. I looked around me and everybody else was silent. And I thought, there's something wrong. There's something very, very, very wrong with European civilization. And it was when I woke up this morning in the middle of the night that it occurred to me that European civilization has absolutely become a civilization of victimhood. Either you're the victim or you're victimizing somebody else, and it's all kept running smoothly on rails because everybody lives in denial of what is going on. It's like, move right along, folks, nothing here to see. And so the victimization continues. Now, this idea of victimization is so subtle that they actually cause people to feel like victims. And once a person starts to feel like a victim, they will start to undermine themselves and, if you like, destroy their natural castles from within. That is the run of European culture. And I was thinking to myself, how have we managed to keep this in place? And how can it continue to remain in place? Well, one thing is that solipsism, you should look it up. Solipsism doesn't help. The idea that if it's not real in your head, it doesn't exist. It's almost like it's a philosophy which, to me, is the perfect enabler of what I call moral relativism, which you would call hypocrisy. You see, so that one rule applies to one group of people and another rule applies to another different group of people. There is no justice, there is no fairness. And at the end of the day, the whole thing is denied as if there's nothing here to see. It's perfectly normal. Now, this is how people who are victimized are made to feel. They're made to feel invisible, voiceless, non existent. And because they are made to feel that way, after a while, if they don't implode, that is, society can just continue to ladle on the abuses it has continued to ladle on done it in colonialism for 500 years. And the populations of the West have now become masters, past masters of absolving themselves of responsibility while they've got the loot in their pockets of their relationship with their formal colonial territories. It's like, oh, it's got nothing to do with me. I wasn't there when, we we kind of sent the gunboats out and jumped inland and stole all their resources and so on and so on. I wasn't there. Yeah, you weren't there, but you're living in the economy that has borne the fruits of that kind of brigandage, international brigandage. So European civilization is a lot about denial, real denial. Now, the other part of this is that, you see, if you keep telling yourself and the rest of the world that you're the most superior, the most civilized, and the best thing since sliced bread, it becomes incredibly difficult for you to acknowledge that, whoops, we've made some mistakes, and whoops, we need to adjust our position. And it seems to me that the people who have made the lunge for world power, the Klaus Schwabs, the World Economic Forums of this world, the dark elites, call them what you will, the oligarchs, what we have done to make life easier for them is that because we have been such hypocrites in the past, we now find it difficult to call out the people who encouraged us to abuse others to task. They encouraged us to feel superior, to go out in the world, colonize it, abuse it thoroughly, afterwards deny it. Now they're doing the same thing to us. And so, like my friend was talking about in that get together, he's talking about horrific treatment of cousin Europeans, I would call them, in Italy. If you're in the UK, Italians are your cousins. The French, the Germans, the Dutch, the Norwegians, the Scandinavians. You guys are all related to each other. And met with stoical silence. Blew my mind. So the supremacism doesn't help. And at the end, what it means is that Western civilization has lost a view, a logical, round, realistic view of who she is or what she is or what she's become. And the idea that everything is predicated on victimizing somebody so Western civilization can march on in its supremacism is still regarded as, whoops, nothing here to see, it's business as usual, and so on and so forth. So, here's the final danger. Western civilization is the driving force of world civilization at the moment. We're just at that cycle where Western civilization has peaked. So, whatever happens in the West infects the rest of the world. If this culture of victimhood is being practiced in Europe by Europeans now towards their own Europeans, what is that going to do to the rest of the world? It's going to infect the rest of the world. In Africa, you've already got it happening. The people who were running that continent, the natives of Africa who were running that continent, all graduated from the universities that the people who run Europe graduated from: Oxford, Cambridge, Harvard, Yale, Stanford, Wharton, INSEAD, the Sorbonne. A couple of people I know started going to the University of Tokyo. So there is an infection which is running around the world. And I am here to ask people to literally grow a pair, stand up, and call spade a spade. Call it for what it is. This culture, this European culture of victimhood must end. We must stop predating on ourselves. It's a form of emotional, economic, political, and other cannibalism. Stop it. We must cease and desist. Thanks very much. Can you imagine waking up at 2:15 in the morning with these ideas running around your head? Anyway, have a really good night, and I'll post this up later. Do subscribe and share and comment, please. Thank you.